Welcome to episode 4 of the YouTube sensation. Matt and Scott talk about Barbra. I mean, this show is blowing up. It has been crazy. Have you been mobbed at the grocery store everywhere you go? It's ridiculous.
No, but I'm waiting for an Emmy nomination.
Well, don't wait for a Grammy because we know how the Grammys feel about Barbra. And if you don't know, you
Oh,
know when you read Barbra Streisand, the music, the albums, the single by Matt Howe, who took his website, moved it all around and put it in book form. This is a book that you can pre-order at tuckerdspress.com that covers every Barbra album and single and song. The pictures are amazing, full color, hardback. We actually kind of made it so it can go side by side with Barbra's design book. So we made the dimensions the same, so they're going to look great. So don't go to Amazon. We don't care about Amazon. You want to come to Tucker DS Press and help us.
independent publishers are where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, come on. If there's one thing America's good at, it's supporting small business. Well, let's skip that. So in the first 3 episodes, we covered the 60s, and now we're to the 70s. Just real quick, what do you think about Barbra in the 60s before we move on to the 70s?
Well, probably my favorite era until later. I like the 60s better than the 70s, I have to say. I mean, it's just a personal preference. I like that style of music better. I'm less of a 70s pop guy than I am show tunes and show standards.
I listened to this next album this morning before we did this. Our next album up is her Greatest Hits Volume 1. And in listening to it, I thought, that is incredible that those are her greatest hits. They are all really simple, show tune, not poppy at all. I mean, it's really incredible how different she was in the 60s versus the 70s.
Well, and the album, the Greatest Hits Volume 1 album was released in 1970, but it's all her 60s hits. I mean,
Right.
there's no 70s. I mean, she hadn't recorded the 70s stuff yet. So,
No, so
you
here we
know,
go. Now I'll go first on this one. So
yeah.
as I said in the last episode, the hardest pick for me was Funny Girl, because to me, My Man is one of the best songs ever recorded, and also Don't Rain on My Parade is one of the best songs recorded. And thank the Lord, the movie version was on here. So I am picking Don't Rain on My Parade because the movie version kicks ass, and I use that song in my real life. If you need that motivation, Barbra will just get you going and pushing you over the edge. So my pick from that is Don't Rain on My Parade.
Yeah. Well, we both cheated because I did the same thing. In the last episode for Funny Girl, the movie, I picked Greatest Star, even though I love Don't Rain on My Parade, but I knew it was going to be on the Greatest Hits. And for the same reason, I mean, that song is, well, in the book, we have segments called signature songs, Streisand signature songs, hard to say fast. And that is one of them. It's forever associated with Barbra. When you see other singers sing it, they imitate her licks and her phrasing, and it's just hard to ignore the OG Barbra Streisand "Don't Rain on My Parade," especially the amazing arrangement by Walter Scharf, who did the movie arrangements.
So I love that we both cheated. Now, this is funny that we agreed on greatest hits. We both picked Don't Rain on My Parade. How hilarious. So we're still at 10% of songs, which is what I predicted, that 90% of our picks would be different. We'll see how we do. The next one is another film soundtrack. We've got On a Clear Day, You Can See Forever. What did you pick off this one?
Growing up, even though the song On a Clear Day is amazing, I was always attracted to Hurry, It's Lovely Up Here, the opening song, just because it's just so happy. And Barbra also sings the melody like she really, really gives it some Streisandisms that make it her own. In fact, there's a lyric that I never understood for a long time, and now I'm going to forget what it is. Anyway, but she does such a great job, and it makes me happy, and it's a great way to open the movie. And I know we're talking about music, but it's also just fun to watch the movie and see her
Yeah.
asking the flowers to grow up. I love that song so
But
much. It
the
makes me so
best,
happy.
the lyric that I love is "Rise up, geranium. It can't be fun subterranean." That is one hell of a
Well,
lyric.
the lyrics are fantastic in that song.
Yeah. So I picked "Go to Sleep."
What's yours?
Go to Sleep.
Oh, Go
I
to Sleep.
love Go to Sleep. I think it's so cute. It's so Barbra. I love how she's sitting in the chair and her outfit is the same as the chair.
That's the curtains.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just
Right.
exactly
And the
the same.
wallpaper.
I that has always been my favorite part of the movie is Go to Sleep, and I have listened to that at night when sometimes I can't go to sleep. It's a
You
good
know,
thing to listen
that
to.
was written for the film too. That song replaced a huge production number that they ended up canceling to save money, and they stuck her in the bedroom singing "Go to Sleep." It's a great song though.
It's just a fun one, so I like that one. So now we're really in the 70s, even though this is the
Yeah.
third album of the 70s. Now we've got like 70s Barbra. We've got Stoney End. And I'll just go first on this one because I could have picked a lot from this one. I actually love Stoney End, but I had to pick Stoney End because it is such a fun song, and it was
Wow.
one as a kid that I remember hearing. It was one of the early ones that got me into Barbra, and I wish you would have done more songs like this.
Well, Stony End is a lot of people's favorite song. It's what they remember about her. This is the album produced by Richard Perry for her, and I like the next album better. But on Stony End, my pick for favorite song is "I Don't Know Where I Stand," which
Mm.
opens the album. I think it's the most one of the most beautiful songs she's ever recorded, Barbra, written by Joni Mitchell. It's a stream of consciousness lyric. It has no bridge. It's just three stanzas of this beautiful poetry. So muted and misty, so drowsy. Um, Crickets call, courting their ladies, and star dappled green. I mean, oh, and it's just so beautiful. And the fans will be interested to know that when she sang a live concert for Daniel Ellsberg to raise money for his defense in the Pentagon Papers. She performed with a quartet, Marvin Hamlish. Columbia recorded the whole album one day. Hopefully they'll release it, but she did an amazing live version of the song. And Joni Mitchell was in the audience. And then it's brought to her attention after the song. You can hear her saying, "I love this song, Joni. I love your lyrics. I mean, it's just the most beautiful song. Y'all listen to it again if you haven't heard it for a while. Oh,
That's a good pick. Now let's argue for a second because you have a line in your book that I don't like.
uh-oh.
There's one line in that book, and that is when you say
Yes.
stop singing Randy Newman songs. I actually like the Randy
Oh,
Newman songs that are on Stony End. Um, Now I forget which ones are from Release Me and which ones are from this
well,
one.
maybe is on Stony End.
Well, maybe isn't Randy Newman.
Oh, I thought it was. Is
No,
that
that's Harry
Nielsen?
Nilsson. I'll Be Home.
Whoops. Oh,
Yeah,
I'll Be Home is
I'll Be Home.
okay.
I like that one. And I feel like there's
Just in general, it's not like I skip the songs. It's just I'm just not a fan of Randy Newman's music. Barbara sings it well. I don't think she's, out of her wheelhouse when she sings a Randy Newman tune. It's just he's doesn't kind of jaunty and kind of I don't know.
yeah, I think
And
there's a lot of
he's
acting and
Short People was his big hit. Remember that?
well, of
Short
course,
People
yeah.
got no reason to
And I'm
live.
not saying Barbara should sing Short People, but he has a song called Losing You that, someday I'm assuming Jay Landers is going to call me up and be like, "Hey, Scott, would you mind producing Barbara's next album?" And I'll say, "You know what? I'll do it. Fine. Stop bothering me." I would have her sing Randy
Right.
Newman's Losing You. Check out that song and imagine Barbara.
Yeah, I don't know that song. Yeah,
Nobody
yeah,
does.
okay. Good
This
tip.
is the next one, which to me, there are no two albums that are more a companion piece to me than Stoney Ann and Barbra Jones Streisand. To me, they're almost
Well,
like
both
one thing.
both produced by Richard Perry too, so there's a through line there.
Yeah, I mean, they really are part one, part two. So we've got Barbra Jones Streisand. What is your favorite one on this one?
Well, I think this album just generally works better. Her work with Richard Perry works better here. But my favorite, and I could have chosen Since I Fell for You because it's such a classic, but I listened to it lately and maybe I've over listened to it. Maybe it's lost the magic trick of that high note and everything. So I went again for Subtle Acting, which is I Never Meant to Hurt You, which is a Laura Nero song. It's so touching. Barbra's singing is so subtle. She's definitely acting in the song. And the lyric I find very touching. When you're in love with somebody and you do something that hurts them, and then the last lyric is, when I saw you crying, I cried too. It's so beautiful.
Interesting. We both picked Laura Nero songs. On the last one, I did Stoney End. So on this
Okay.
one, my pick is Beautiful, the Carole King song.
Yeah.
And here's what I think is so fascinating, why I love Beautiful so much on this album. I didn't even have to think twice. If you listen to Carole King's version, it's slower and it's deader.
Okay.
And I feel like most people would think, oh, if Barbra Streisand, the idea that people that don't know her have in their mind would think, oh, well, her version's going to be slower. But no, I
Right.
mean, Barbara's really rocks, and I love it. I just think it's amazing.
I think Beautiful, what I think is interesting too, and I write in the book about I've had to learn sort of a new musical language to write about music. But what I've noticed, and maybe somebody with more musical knowledge than I could tell me, but Beautiful seems to be in a lower key that she usually sings in, but it works because she's just like, you've got to get up every morning. She just kind of thunders through it.
Yeah, there is something
It's
different about her vocal quality. And again, that's a song that's, when I'm making a Barbra playlist, Beautiful is almost always going to be on it. Now, one of the things about this book that I love, and then I did not know, and I'm not the most knowledgeable Barbra fan, but I've loved her since the 70s, so, but I did not know it all. But because of you, I've been spending a ton of money, and I'm beating the rest of you because I've been editing the book, so I knew. You taught me about how this album is different because this is a quadraphonic. I did not know.
right.
Give people a little bit of history of why these are different and what this means. And guess what, folks? I've been out there buying them all off eBay, so I don't care anymore. I got them all. Once this book comes out, tell us
So
about
in the
that.
old days, for those who don't know, and there's fans that already know about this, but for those who don't know, there was a stereo system that used either on 8-track tapes or reel-to-reel or LPs. It was a quadraphonic system. So when you bought the system, so you had to have the system too, right? An expensive stereo system. That's probably the wrong word. But when you put the needle on the quadraphonic album, it separated the sound into the 4 different speakers. Now, I've had some people digitally make me a CD version of the quadraphonic that I would play. I used to have an SACD system with the 4 speakers, and it's incredible. It is immersive. You hear something in the back right, you hear something in the front left, you hear the seagulls go from the right to the left. I mean, it's an amazing system, but it never caught on. And out of Barbra's, I'm going to get this wrong, but let's say 4 or 5 different quadraphonic albums, they all have different remixes, sometimes different takes, sometimes same take, a little bit of a different remix, and then a different vocal at the end for some reason. So they're all over the place. Stoney and Butterfly have the most remixes and different takes. But yeah, Forum, live concert at the Forum, has some extra comments that she makes during her bit with a T. Yeah, that's what a quadraphonic is.
I've been out collecting them, but that's one of the things about this book that is so cool, that you're going to get that in-depth of them. And the album's a little different, where you've got some orange up here, the back cover's a little bit different, but
all the quadraphonic albums were rimmed in gold just to make them different.
So what is your pick from Form? Now, first of all, this is one of your all-time favorite Barbra records, right? Is that true?
When I first became a fan, I listened to this album all the time, and I loved it so much. I wanted to see her live. I wanted to see this concert, and it's such a great recording, and also, you know, this is before punch-ins and digital editing. I mean, she is pitch perfect on every song from start to finish, and nothing's been cut out. This is the complete program. But for my number one pick, I'm going to go with "Sing, Make Your Own Kind of Music," the opening song. I that's medley, that medley, arranged by Don Hanna for her when she performed in Vegas, is so happy. I love the background singers. I used to sing along with my friend Brett in the car, and he would harmonize, and it just makes me so happy. And the fact that she weaves it into the show, and that at the end, on the top of Happy Days, she brings back in sing a song, and then the fact that she did that arrangement of Sing Happy Days on her last concerts in 2019 in Chicago and New York, I wept tears of joy. I thought I'd never hear that. Now, if she would only do the opening medley of Sing, Make Your Own Kind of Music, I would just faint completely.
I'm so glad you picked that. That is not my pick, but it is
Yeah.
great. And I also love the bookendedness of it as well. So great, great pick. Yeah, if there's any Lost fans out there, Make Your Own Kind of Music was a big part of season 2 of Lost. And as soon as it started, they don't use Barbara's version, but I think they use the Mama and the Papas. But
Right.
I was like,
Got it.
oh my
I
God, this
love
is a
Lost.
Barbra song.
Wow.
But my pick is Sweet Inspiration, Where You Lead.
Wow.
It is
Okay.
is Rockin' Barbra, which I love. I used to sing this song so much. I learned it the first time from the Greatest Hits Volume 2 is where I learned this version from, then later it got Forum. But this was again one of those early Barbra songs that like set me on this path of loving her. So it'll always be one of my favorite songs. Another Carole King.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. And you know, when John Arias remixed the album for the CD release, he added an extended ending to that medley. Usually it would fade out, and then you flip the album over, and then it'd fade in. But instead, he just bridged it with a longer extension. That we'd never heard that until the CD came out in the '90s.
Yeah, I actually remember getting this CD in Circuit City. Remember they used to have those
Oh
bins?
yeah.
I think they were in some sort of, it was a deal and you could get 3 for $5, and they had just come out, and it blew my mind because I only knew that song from the Greatest Hits. I didn't even
Yeah.
know, which is again hard for people to understand. It wasn't like now where you have the internet and you just knew every album that was out there. So
Right.
I have just good memories of that. And we know you have good memories of Barbra, you sitting there at home, and you're like, wouldn't it be great if all of this was a book? Well, this nonsense we're having here, that's not the book. The book is like a hard look at these songs, who wrote them, putting them in history. Tons of quotes from Jay Landers and Richard J. Alexander. And we're going to get him in on one of these shows. He should be on here with us.
He's
William
fabulous on
Ross.
these.
Who else did you interview?
Well, I interviewed the Bergmans at one point, and I interviewed Gary Klein, who produced, you know, Superman and things like that. I interviewed.
Phil Ramone.
I have a lot of who?
Phil Ramone.
Oh, the late Phil Ramone. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have a great interview with him, and also just some amazing. I mean, I didn't just copy the website into this book. I did brand new research, and I have new quotes from a lot of people who have written memoirs since I last updated my website. A lot of memoirs of people that have worked with Barbra, talking about working with Barbra, like Maurice White from Earth, Wind and Fire, and like I don't know, other people.
Yeah,
It's all chock full of new information too.
they're all there. And so please support us. Get the book at tuckerdspress.com, and we'll be back next week when we'll pick up with the next 5 albums. So subscribe and thanks.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everybody.